going to get started, folks.
There are guys that will come out of that tunnel there that run on this field, and they have told me they look up at 80,000 people, and they would love for just one moment to look in the stands and to see their father, and just to be able to see their father look down at him and wave. Their bodies are strong, robust, a lot of money in the bank, handsome, famous. They want to see their dad in just one seat, and it will change who they are.
Good morning, everybody. Thank you, and happy Father's Day to all you dads out there. Let's give the dads a hand. Yeah. As Ron said, today can be a difficult day for some because some of us had less than ideal fathers. I'm glad that Shua sang Good Father, because that's who we serve, is a good father. And he's there for us, and he wants to show us his love for us. And I hope that you have received that. And it's meant a lot to me. Even that song has meant a lot to me over the years. And I just encourage you. Today, I hope that you are encouraged because of being here. Thank you for being at Mosaic this morning. I want to show you a video. We did one for Mother's Day from Focus on the Family that was very, very powerful. And I think you're going to be equally blessed because of this one from Focus on the Family as well. So let's watch this video, and then I will wrap it up at the end.
Well, there's no question, Dad, that you have a tremendous impact in your child's life, for good or for bad. And today on Focus on the Family, we'll get some insight from a couple of dads who talk about the power of a father's words and actions.
John, many of us know the heartache of not having a dad. Maybe he's present physically, but not emotionally, or maybe absent altogether. And it creates a lot of problems. Our guest today will share some great examples of the father's influence, and they'll offer some wonderful principles that should help all of us dads do the best job that we can do. I want to say welcome to both of you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for having us.
Hey, let's go with Joe P. Okay, you heard the introduction about the power of a father's words. Let me start with you. Tell me about your relationship with your dad. What happened? What kind of relationship did you have with your dad?
My dad was a very good man, but he wasn't necessarily a great teaching father. My father used reverse psychology on me, which he believed would make me stronger, and I guess it did, but the reality is it also led me down a really bad path, because I wanted his approval so bad, and I wanted to be somebody so badly that I did a lot of things that I wish I never did. As a matter of fact, guys, I told so many lies when I was younger that to this day, I don't know what actually happened in my childhood, because I made up this whole fantasy world. And
About having the good dad?
Not necessarily about having a good dad, about being a good man, me personally.
Okay. What were some of those lies? What did they sound like?
Oh, my goodness. I don't know. I was probably the captain of Lost in Space, you know, all that kind of stuff. And I look, everything. I made myself look better than I was. because I didn't have a good grasp on who I was. I didn't have a man who was speaking into my life, telling me and encouraging me what a man really looks like. I grew up with the idea that a man had to be strong, had to have a lot of women, and that kind of thing, and that's just not what a man is.
Yeah. Let me go a little further, though. What drives that insecurity? I mean, where does that come from for many of us guys? It's a kind of a male thing to be bigger, show yourself bigger than you truly are, or better than you truly are.
Oh, I believe we're hardwired. I believe God has hardwired men to have an understanding of who they are and
who they're not.
And actually, the who they're not is probably more important than who they are in a lot of ways, because we need to eliminate all those things that society is telling us and really focus on that which God crafted us to do. And when we study Scripture and we look at it, we can get a very good sense of who we are in Christ. And when we do that, it changes the game.
Well, and that's what we talk about in terms of being rooted in Him, His truth,
Amen.
Transcendental truth, bigger truth than what we are. And that's what you're driving
That's
at.
right.
All right, Joe, you have a daughter.
I do.
Share an occasion where your words made a big impression on her. Let's put you right on the firing line
I know
here.
this story.
Well, this is a great story, and basically what happened one day was my daughter said, "Hey, Dad, let's go for a trip to the mall," which is teenage euphemism for, "Dad, I want you to buy me something."
Right. Retail therapy.
Retail therapy, yes. And this is the important thing, is that I went with her, right? And so we go to the mall, and we go into, and I won't mention the store on air.
Okay.
But it was one of those places where when I walked into the store, there were pictures of half-naked young women, adolescent young women, lying on top of equally unattired young men. And at this point, I'm steaming. And I'm saying, "What's this about?" And my daughter is about 13 or 14 and elbows me in the ribs and says, "Dad, don't," because she knows I will say something. And so we walk up to the counter, and there are two young people standing there. Of course, they're just working. And so she says again, "Dad, don't." So I put the shirt on the counter, and then I asked the young man, "I want you to tell your manager, please, that I really don't like what I see on the walls here, because I don't like the messages it's giving out, and I think it's dishonoring to our children." And so he kind of sheepishly turns away, and then I look to the young lady and I say, "Young lady, do you like what you see up here? How does it represent what you feel about yourself?" And she kind of sheepishly turns away as well, at which point my daughter yells out, "Dad, they don't care." On cue, the young man turns back to me and says, "I wish my father cared as much." Silence. And as we walked out of the mall that day, my daughter said to me, "Well, Dad, he had to say that." And I said, "Honey, you will learn that people will only say what is on their heart to say." And so I think it's incumbent upon us as men, and particularly as fathers, to understand that our role is a teacher. In Deuteronomy 11:18-19, Moses assembles the men from the camp, and he says this to them. to say everything is okay. Not everything is right. Not everything is correct. And we need to stand our ground.
Yeah.
And we need to fight that, because most of what we believe as Christians is counterintuitive and countercultural to what the culture would say. Mm-hmm. Jesus is my North Star, period.
Yeah.
When I follow him, I have a definite line in the sand that I will not cross. And my children need to see that. And so the fun thing is that years later, the story I mentioned earlier, my daughter called me one day. She was with her friends. She was in her 20s now. She said, "Dad, I'm reading your book with my story in it to my friends. They think it's really cool that you stood up and said that."
Yeah.
And so what will happen is that you don't know it now, but when you stand for what is right and what is true and what is honorable, your kids will process that later on, and it will make sense to them, and they will rise up and call you blessed, as Scripture says.
Yeah. Answer the question about that single-parent mom who doesn't have that influence in her home. Where does she derive some hope that her son or daughter can get that kind of influence, that kind of steadiness?
So when we use the word father say, or the phrase father say, we're not only talking about the words from a father, we're talking about from a grandfather or from a mentor. Now, there are single women, single moms in the church are probably the most underserved people in the church. Mm-hmm. And what we need to see are more men stepping up to the plate and saying, "Listen, let me come along your son. Let me help him. Let me take him to the ball game. Let me teach him a little bit."
Men gotta do that.
They have to do it. It's their responsibility. Yeah. And when I talk to men that I don't have any sons, guess what? You always have a son that you can adopt into your life. And it makes all the difference in the world. Right now, I'm mentoring three young men who have come from severe drug backgrounds, one who attempted suicide, and they just never had a model in the home of a man who would love them unconditionally, would teach them. And you come alongside them and you start giving them this love and this discipline in words, because it's not all, flowery. It's got to be truth. And you have to tell them, you can't do this. This is not pleasing to the Lord. And do you understand why? And what you do is they come back to you, and then they'll send you that text that says, "Thank you so much. I tried that. It worked. Thank you." The bottom line is, gentlemen, when you're listening to this show, step out. Rise up and say, "I'm going to reach another life, a young man who has not been blessed like I've been blessed, or who is not understanding of what I know right now." Step up, guys. We need to step up.
That is some great passion from our guest, Joe Pellegrino, and Joe Battaglia in the studio as well with us today on Focus on the Family. And the book is called Fathers Say, Give the Gift of Blessing to Your Children. And I love what you guys are saying. I'm just thinking there are guys who are feeling like, I'm such a hypocrite. I can't do that. I mean, I've messed up so much in my life. You guys, you've got it together. So what can I do today to get over that sense of guilt that I don't measure up and I don't even have purpose? How do I give it to a kid?
Okay, that is the $1 million question. Here, I will give you the answer based on my own life. I've made every mistake in the book. I've screwed up. And my first son, Joey, he was my first, and he didn't come with instructions, so we had to learn. Yeah. And unfortunately, Joey had to bear the brunt of our learning. And one time, I'm a big baseball guy. I love baseball. And I took Joey on the side of my house, and I told him, "If you hit the ball over my head, I'm going to buy you that pirate Lego ship you always wanted." And, he was practicing. He never hit the ball over my head, or so I say. Years later, it would always come up, "You never got me that pirate Lego ship." I said, "You never hit the ball over my head."
So this is good-natured back and forth?
Well, I thought it was, until I moved him down to Jacksonville, Florida, when he was 24 years old. And on the drive down, we're very similar. I mean, my son is a great man of God, but we were butting heads all the way down. And when we got down there, we went to Walmart to get him stuff for his apartment. And as God would have it, he led me through the Lego aisle. and I saw the brand new version of the pirate Lego ship, and the Holy Spirit spoke boldly to me. I knew exactly what I had to do. When I got on that plane, I went back to New Jersey, and the next morning I went right to Walmart. I bought that pirate Lego ship. I wrapped it. I took a piece of Legacy Minded Men stationery, and I wrote words similar to this. Dear Joey, forgive the tardiness of this note, for I've witnessed so many home runs in your life, and I'm so proud of you. Love, Dad. And I determined I was going to give it to him at Christmas when he came home. So Christmas comes, we give out all of our gifts, and I had this one gift, and I said, Joe, this is from me to you, but before you open it, you have to read the card. He reads the card, he throws his head back, and he puts his head on the box, and he says, I know what's in here. That afternoon, we went by my brother-in-law for Christmas, and he stood next to me, and my brother-in-law said, what'd you get for Christmas, Joe? And he put his arm around me, which was, it wasn't as normal. And he said to me, my dad got me something that he never has to get me anything else again. And from that point forward, I've noticed an unbelievable change. We are so close. He's a great man of God. I'm so proud of him. But, gentlemen, the point is this. It's never too late. It's never too late to write that note, to send a video, to speak boldly into the life of your child and simply say, I was wrong. I'm sorry. I'm sorry I was wrong. Because, guys, I can tell you this. I truly believe he did not hit that ball over my head, because I wouldn't have done that. But he believed it. And therefore, I had to be the man to step up and say, something needs to be done, because this relationship's got a little bit of brokenness to it.
Yeah. I mean, we all got tears in our eyes. It's the power of a dad right there.
Yeah. I mean, people have to understand, particularly men, that brokenness is de rigueur for the Christian life. That Jesus does not accept us because we're right and perfect. The foot of the cross is the greatest level playing field of all time.
Amen.
And everybody has to come there. And when you can come there and see someone dying for you, then that makes a whole lot of more sense of, I am not perfect. No one's expecting me to be, but I can learn to be someone better.
Well, and it's so well said. And if you think of the garden, we're still there. Shame. We're Adam. We're shame.
Amen.
We're feeling shame.
Amen.
Rather than freedom in Christ. And you're hitting the very core of the nature of manhood. You talk about celebrities in the book. We haven't even touched on that.
Oh, yeah. There's a book, right?
There's a book, yes.
You compiled these stories. Give us one or two examples. Why did you go with celebrities? What do they show that maybe normal folk like us don't possess? I mean, what?
Well, the simple truth of that, Jim, is that we went with celebrities because people are more apt to want to hear and read about somebody that they know. You know, a friend of mine says
familiarity.
There is familiarity, and that's important. You know, the reality of having these people who we only know one-dimensionally, right? We only know them by how we see them on television, how we see them perform on the field, or so forth. And so the idea of getting people outside their milieu of how they're understood is a really good way of engaging people to read their stories. And so that's why we chose the celebrities.
What's an example of one or two that really popped for you guys?
My favorite is Corbin Burnson, L.A. Law, and he talks about his father. He starts off by saying, this is not a man that should be in a book like this. But what he taught us is that no matter how difficult or disconnected the father might be, there are always some great teaching words that can come from it. And that's what Corbin, he learned when his father would say, don't blame others for your failures. And that impacted him mightily because of his father's struggles with fidelity, his mother took to the bottle. And because of that, the mother was disconnected from him. And he was upset with his mother. And his father said this out of the blue. And it just impacted him tremendously. And again, the power of words. And here's a man who has been very successful in life, but he recognized that there was a major nugget there. And I also love the fact that he was so honest about it. He spoke boldly about his father. He loved his father, but the reality was he wasn't a great dad.
What sticks out for you? What story?
Well, I like Delilah's story. She is an incredible...
that's the radio.
That's the radio host, yes. Yeah. And most people just know her as, you know, the subtle 7 to midnight evening host. But she is an amazing believer and a strong Christian. And what she has done to personally save orphans in a refugee camp in Ghana is a movie in and of itself. It's just amazing. But with her dad, it was really grassroots. And she remembers him saying, can't means you won't. That's what sticks out. And so the reality of don't tell me you can't, because it's really about you won't. And the issue of men stepping forward to saying, well, I can't do that, is really more about I won't do that.
Right.
And I think when we talk to men, the opportunity to say, oh, well, I can't do that because I'm busy, I'm playing golf, or I'm, out with the boys, or I can't because, I'm just too busy at work or whatever. The reality is a priority will always take priority over everything. And so the obvious is really obvious here. And so to me, it always resonates when I say, well, I can't. That always comes back to me. Well, is it really I can't, or is it because I won't?
Right.
What is the responsibility that God has called me to?
Well, I think we're all feeling a bit of that guilt right now, because there's things I wish I wouldn't have done last weekend, like take too much time on some of the chores rather than with the boys. At the end here, how do we tie this in a bow for the guys that this is real life? This is what happens. I am working hard. I do travel a lot. I am distracted from my core mission of raising my sons or my daughters. Give it to me. Grab me by the ears.
What I would love to see is for people to recognize that the world is telling them what men are supposed to do, and when they do, they're putting men down, they're holding them down. The reality is we would love to see a movement of people coming out and telling their story about the power of a man's words in their life. If we could start doing that, we could start really encouraging men to recognize and step up to, it's great to be a dad, it's great to be a man, but you know what? We need to encourage them. And your words, listeners, your words are the ones that are going to make it happen. Encourage them. Let them know that their words matter. Let them know that it makes a difference in this world, because the greatest problem in the world today are men who have abdicated their role as leaders, husbands, and fathers, and we need to step up to the plate. Let's do it.
Man, that is good.
Amen.
Were you a
That's the
football
end.
coach? I'm ready to go. And you are connecting with me. I'm just like, "Urgh." There was a football coach I had in high school who grabbed me by the face mask and called me out. Said, if you're going to be the quarterback, you finish the wind sprints first. And that, man, I'm telling you, when I'm feeling low, that scene, that story comes back to my 16-year-old presence, of that coach grabbing me, yanking my head, probably illegal today. But did he get my attention just like you just did? That's the heart of manhood. You guys have brought it today. Thank you so much for being with us here, Focus on the Family. Thanks for sharing your stories, for compiling this great book, Fathers Say. And I'm telling you, folks, this is the kind of resource or tool that you need. It's not too late. Even if your kids are 30s and 40s, they'll have ideas in there about how you can mend that relationship.
Powerful stuff. Powerful stuff. I want to wrap us up here with a couple of things that were on my heart. As we know, we're all at different places in our spiritual journey, every one of us in this room. And we'll be that way, and we'll continue to learn, and we'll continue to bring things into our lives that God is saying to us until the day we die. And that's just the nature of our spiritual journey. It never ends. And as long as you're a learner, as long as you are allowing yourself to be taught. You and I have a choice to make each and every day. Will we stay on God's wheel? Will we stay letting God's hands be on us? We are the clay. He is the potter. What shall the clay say to the potter? We need to just say, God, you fashion my life the way you want it fashioned. You use all the hurts and the pain and the joy and the success, and use all of it, Lord, for your glory and my good, Romans 8:28. But that won't happen if we take ourselves off the wheel. We have to continue, even at times when it hurts, even at times where we don't know what God's doing. We look at ourselves and we're going, like they said, I'm full of guilt, I'm full of shame. I've really blown it in my life. I made such a terrible mistake. I don't see how I could ever be used by God. That's all a lie. That's all a lie. God's grace is brand new every morning. I don't care what you've done in your life. God still wants to use it for your good and for his glory, as long as you stay on the wheel. as long as you let God's hands continue to fashion you. He is the potter. We are the clay, and it's important that we stay there. One of the things that sabotages a healthy spiritual connection with the Lord is an unhealthy emotional connection with others. Let me say that again. One of the things that hinders, sabotages a healthy spiritual connection with the Lord is an unhealthy emotional connection with others. That could be your spouse. It could be a sibling. It could be a child. It could be your boss. It could be a coworker. Any unhealthy relationships that you have in your life where you're not really letting the Lord lead you in those unhealthy relationships, it's going to hinder you spiritually. It just will. The one relationship that trips us up more than any others is the relationship that we have with our mother and father. That's the one relationship that trips us up more than any other, is the relationship that we have with our mothers and our fathers, especially fathers. Especially fathers. And why do I say that? Studies have shown over and over again that the perception that we have of our Heavenly Father is greatly influenced by the relationship we have with our earthly father. Studies show that over and over and over again. And so some people's walk with the Lord has really been hindered and thwarted because they had such a terrible relationship with their earthly father. I know mine was until I really was able to walk through forgiveness of what he had done to me. And so, like I've said before, I would have no trouble praying to God, the Holy Spirit, God, Jesus. But whenever it was like God the Father, our Father, something just didn't connect with me in the early years because of my relationship with my earthly father. And so it wasn't until years later that the Lord, when he healed me of that, and just like I said, that song, Good, Good Father, means a lot to me because I have such a good Abba Daddy. I have such a good Heavenly Father, even though I had such a terrible earthly father. But I had to work through that. That took years of counseling. It took years of just letting others speak into my life, and to be able to say, I want to end well. I want to be a good father. I want to be a good husband. I want to be a good pastor. I want to be these things. But I knew early on I wasn't those things because I wasn't where I needed to be with my forgiveness of my earthly father. As your pastor, it's my desire to see you be and become all that God has ordained you to be. That's my heart as a shepherd, is that you will be and become all that God wants you to be and become. I know that process is hindered if we don't have complete forgiveness with our earthly parents. If you haven't worked through complete forgiveness of your earthly parents, your mother or your father or your step-parents, if you haven't worked through that, it's going to hinder you spiritually. It just will. And so I just want you to evaluate kind of where are you at this Father's Day. Instead of hiding from your pain or masking it, I would just encourage you to actually move toward it, to move toward that pain. And that's the reason that people don't. They say, Rick, this week I had like 12 counseling appointments this week. I was trying to catch up on appointments. And just the theme that runs through these appointments is just the relationship that people have with their parents, with one another. They blame God. They aren't ready to move toward the pain. And that's I hear over and over again. Rick, it hurts. Why would I want to go back there? Why would I want to go back there? Because sometimes you just have to, because there was no closure. There was no closure. And you kind of are walking through life limping, and you're just kind of like angry, or you've turned to vices, or you've turned to other things, and because you haven't dealt with the root. And unless we get to the root and cut the unhealthy root, you're not going to have good fruit. You just aren't. And so it's important that we get to the bottom and the root of things. Don't stay there. Don't park there. Make sure you're going there temporarily, okay? Because a lot of people spend their whole lives just kind of dwelling on the past. That's not what I'm saying. But you do need to go back there and just say, okay, I'm going to bring closure. and then move on with your life. But I've just met so many Christians over the years that haven't moved on. If you know you need to be in a better place in your heart with your mom and dad, then make a commitment to get there. Make a commitment to get there. And you can even do it if they're deceased. I did a lot of healing work with my father after he died. And I had the help of a counselor who guided me through the work that I needed to do. And he had been dead for years, but there was still a remnant, a piece. Something was not right with me. And I realized that I hadn't fully forgiven him. And so she helped me and just guided me through lots of different things. And one of the things that made the biggest difference in my life was she said, Rick, I want you to write a letter to you from your dad. And I want you to say all the things to yourself that you always wished your dad had said. Whew. That took me out. Just took me out. Dear Ricky. And it was gut-wrenching. And it was beautiful all at the same time. Because I was hearing things from my dad that I wish I had always heard before he died. Forgiveness. Every point in my life where he violated me in such a major way, every one of those, there were 17 of those areas that were just as clear as day that had happened yesterday. And I gave each one of them, and he said, Ricky, remember the night, the day you came home from school and your mother was lying there in her blood? Remember the blood coming out of her nose and ear and you thought she was dead? Ricky, I need you to forgive me. That was wrong. You never should have seen that at 12 years old. You never should have seen that. And I am so sorry. And if you could find it in your heart. Again, I'm writing this letter to me from my father. And I'm telling you, folks, it just set me free. It just set me free. And I was able to finally bring closure. And then after each one of those 17 in my journal, I wrote, Dad, I forgive you. I forgive you. And I was specific for the specific sin, the violation I forgive you for. And there was just such a burden lifted from me as I worked through that process for 5 or 6 months. And I just want to encourage each of you to move toward the pain. Nobody likes it. No, it's not pretty. But you're not going to, it's just a lot of you, not all of you, but a lot of you need to go there. You need to move toward the pain. And some of you are fine, and all of a sudden you realized your identity in Christ, and you realize what good dwells back there. Why am I going back there? That works for several people. It doesn't work for all people. And so if you feel like you need to go back and do some remedial work on your own heart, then I just encourage you to do it. If you need a counselor, if you need people in our church that are trained in this area to help you, we would love to help you and come alongside of you. But we will do whatever we can do for you to help you get free of all that junk and garbage. Adult conflicts are nothing more than youth conflicts that were never solved. And it's important that we get to those conflicts in our lives so that we can be free. Don't wait another Mother or Father's Day to move toward past pain. Don't wait. Like this video said, if you're a dad and you know there's a wedge between you and your children, take care of it. Because I've met with a lot of fathers who live in regret, and they said, I remember this day I did. I don't think my son or daughter ever forgave me. I just throw it back at them and say, what are you doing about it? Well, no, I'm just kind of waiting for them to come to me. What do you mean you're waiting for them to come to you? They're not going to come to you. It's your responsibility and my responsibility as a father and mother to move toward them. It's not their responsibility to move toward us. You could wait till the day you die. If you have been convicted and you know that there's something between you and your parents or step-parents, it's your responsibility and my responsibility to move toward that. Not sit there and wait, because it's not going to happen. Move toward the pain and yes, it's awkward, and yes, it's going to hurt, and yes, they may be really, really angry at you. Well, of course they will be. Get on your knees and take it like a man and take it like a woman. You've heard me say, when your children get in their 20s, they're going to come back to you and say, Dad, Mom, you made some mistakes raising me. Of course we did. Of course, there isn't a single parent alive that hasn't made a ton of mistakes. It's at that point you've got to humble yourself. It isn't pride at that point because they'll not come back again usually. But you, when they come to you and say, could we talk? And they're fishing. They're fishing around. And they're seeing if you're going to be humble or if you're going to be arrogant and prideful. They're just listen with different ears and say, I think they want to talk about 12. I think they want to talk about that time I overpunished them or disciplined them. I think they want to talk about that time I called them stupid. I think they want to talk about that time. There's lots of times because we're fallen human beings and we make terrible mistakes, a lot of us as parents. And when your children get ready to come back and say, can we talk? You betcha. You drop everything. You drop everything. There's no work. There's no nothing that's as important as reconciling with your children. Nothing. And you just got to go back. And I want to encourage you 20-somethings, 30, 40-somethings, if you've never gone to your parents and they're still alive and you know there's angst, you know there's a division between you, you go as well. You go as well. I'm not saying it's going to be received well, but you can kind of lay the pipe there and say, Mom, Dad, Mom, I'd like to talk to you. You know, I'm having some trouble in my young adult life, and I'd like to talk to you about some things if that's okay. But I need you to know, you could write them a letter, you can have somebody else say it to them, I don't care. You could just say, I really need you to listen. I don't need the yeah, but. I don't need the yeah, comma, but always equals excuse. Please don't yeah, but me. Please don't remind me of what you did for me growing up. Please don't say the roof over the head and the food on the table. I don't want to talk about that. Can I talk to you specifically about something that you did or said? And it's been hard for me to shake. It's been really, really difficult for me to shake. And like the guy said in there, he maybe never hit it over my head, but to him he did. To him he did. And so it's important that we move toward that. So I just want to encourage you as we close to just think through that. If God has convicted you in any way, move toward it. Don't run away from it. I want to actually play the 1-minute video that we showed coming out of break. Some of you didn't see that. Think about what is being said here. This guy is the president of this father organization for fathers, big NFL coach in the sense of emotional coach. Just listen to his heart. And I just want to walk us through a closing time after he says what he says.
There are guys that will come out of that tunnel there that run on this field, and they have told me they look up at 80,000 people. They would love for just one moment to look in the stands and to see their father. And just to be able to see their father look down at them and wave. Their bodies are strong, robust, a lot of money in the bank, handsome, famous. They want to see their dad in just one seat. And it will change who they are.
Let's pray. Just going to have you bow your heads and just empty yourself of everything right now. I don't want you to think about anything. I just want to kind of guide you through an exercise right now. Very special moment in your life where you can see yourself laughing, you can see yourself full of joy and happiness. This was one of those special moments as a child where you can just see yourself in such a good way. Go there right now for me. It's kind of made you who you are today in many ways when you start adding those up. I want you to now kind of go to a different place. A place that isn't so happy, that isn't so joyful. Maybe there were even tears, heartache, physical, emotional pain. If you would, I'm going to ask you if you'd be bold enough to go there. And let the Lord just show you that he was standing right there with you. Picture Jesus. Stopped it. And yes, he could have intervened, but he didn't. We don't know why he allowed it until we know why he allowed it. And maybe you have never reconciled that day or that moment or several of those days or several of those moments. Maybe you've never released it fully to him. I just want you to see Jesus standing there, and he's weeping. And he puts his hands on the back of your shoulder. And he puts his arms around you and says, I'm so sorry. I am so, so sorry. This was never what I intended. Never did I ever want you to be violated like this. This was not what I had for you. One day, with my help, you can forgive. You'll never forget. You may never trust again. But you can forgive. Because I am with you. And I will walk with you and I will hold your hand. And I will continue to put my arm around your shoulder and say, we can do this. We can do this together. So allow the Lord to minister to you. And bring that with you into the rest of this day and tomorrow and the next day. And move toward those moments that were just so sad. And they were just so awful. Let the Lord walk you back through those moments and just bring closure and just bring forgiveness and say, I allowed it, and it's a test and a trial, and it's not what I initially intended, but I'm going to use it. I'm going to use it in your life. You're going to make you more with just greater compassion and greater empathy for those who have gone through similar pain. And I want to use you as my instrument. I want to use you as my ambassador. I want to use you as me with skin on to those who are around you. I want you to hug those who need a hug. I want you to stand behind those who need a hand on the shoulder and say, it's okay, we're going to make it. We're going to make it because I made it. And so, Father, I pray for each and every one of us in this room, that you would help us to know that you have never left us. You never forsook us. Your world that you created in paradise was perfect, and then sin came. And this isn't our home. And while we're here, each and every one of us will probably receive many body blows, some worse than others. But Lord, you never forsook us. You never left us. And you're going to take all that pain and you're going to use it for our good and your glory if we will stay on the wheel. And sometimes that hurts in such a deep way. But God, we have to move toward that and not run away from it. Let this be the last Father's Day or Mother's Day that we just kind of pose that we just kind of put on the smile and figure out what card to send our parents. It doesn't even come close to saying what we would like to say. Lord, help us. Let this be the last day that we feel this pain that we feel. Help us, Lord, to know that you're there and you're going to bring healing. You're going to bring hope so that we can bring that to others as well. So, Father, bless those here today whose tears run freely down their cheeks. Lord, be with them in this day. Give them incredible hope that it's not always going to be this way. They just have to stay on the wheel and let you continue to shape them and mold them. Yes, we will have cracks. Yes, there will be scars. Yes, there will be things that identify us and what has happened to us. But those are all going to be turned into your glory and our good, if we will let them. So, Father, be with these dear people, I pray. Watch over their hearts on this Father's Day. Minister to them, I pray. In Jesus' name, amen. Amen. I sit here in front of you, and I thank God for the sins of my father's household. I thank God for the sins of my father's household. I want you to know until you get to that point, there could be some stuff that you need to deal with. But pray that you will get to the point where you'll realize that all that has happened to you, and some of you have had terrible things happen to you, if you will let God have his way with you, you will become not only free, not only healed, but you're also going to become someone that can minister to other people. I would not be standing in front of you today if it had not been for the total abuse that I received from my alcoholic father. I would not be standing in front of you today. I have a tremendous amount of empathy and compassion for people and grace because of what I have received from people and from God especially. So I just want to encourage you to move toward it. And this year, do not wait any longer. Move towards your pain and let the Lord break you, because you can't be fully healed until you're broken. That church mouse is back. You can't be fully healed until you're broken. Let God break you. Let God break you. We have people up here that would love to pray with you. And so please come on up. We'll try to find the mouse and kill it. So come on up here, and we'd love to pray with you. Guys, happy Father's Day to those of you who are dads, and love on your parents today. God bless you. We'll see you next week.